your job isn't to help your teen choose the right path, but to help them become the kind of person who can thrive on any path. Most parents spend their teenage years preparing their child for the big graduation, right? And I believe that there is something greater that we can be preparing them for, because the graduation only is for one day. But decision making, when we prepare them for how to properly make decisions, now that will shape them the rest of their life. And I want to talk to you. I am Dr. Minesha, and I specialize in working with parents just like you who are love their children and are passionate about making sure that their children are delivered to the world with the greatest independence and just conviction spiritually on their calling, on who they are, so they can make a better citizens in the world. And if that is you, I want you to tune in here, because every one of these areas that I'm going to be talking about today that your child has as a young adult, they have to make decisions around. And our job isn't to make every decision for them. Oftentimes we tend to do that unaware. But it's to teach them how to make wise ones long after we're gone. And most of the parents that I serve, what we tend to do is we tend to manage behavior. That sounds like, did you do your homework? What grade did you get in so and so subject, right? Did you clean your room? What time are you coming home, right? So that's all management. Okay? And I want to move us to developing judgment within them, so that they choose wisely. So instead, that looks like, what did you learn? What would you make, so that you don't make the same decision again, right? Behavior management, okay, where we're managing the behavior. This is compliant teenagers. Decision coaching is what we can call it over here. Okay, coaching, right? This is guiding. All right, on this side of the fence is where we spend so much of our time correcting what we can see. But the real work is happening underground, the things that we can't see. Healthy decisions grow from healthy identity. And that's why a lot of the work that I do, especially around adults and young adults, is teaching and giving them that space and that grace before they make any major decision, to be sure that they're clear about who they are. And these are some filter questions for you. Is this consistent with who I want to become? That's a good one. Not can I do this, but should I do this? Right? Another identity question that you want your children to be asking is, will the future me thank me for this? That changes everything. So teenagers often, they think about the moment, but you're training them to think about the future. How will this decision affect my future? And then another filter question that really helps just us as adults and young adults is, does this decision move me towards peace or away from it? And that can look very practical for a teenager as well. So that way we're not just making decisions based off of temporary comfort. That is where the real peace is. It's over here on this side where we're guiding. So they can make some of the hardest decisions that will create the greatest peace for them later in life. I want you to think about this here like a GPS. The difference between guiding and managing. The GPS, it doesn't eliminate wrong turns, but it does help you to recover faster. And that's what character does. When we are powerful parents who are intentional about guiding them versus managing them, because on the managing is lecturing, right? On this side is listening. The older your children get, the less they need long speeches and the more they need thoughtful conversation. Right? Listening is like a topic that is so taboo because everybody feels like we automatically know how. But it's something that every parent leader can sharpen. It's that 30-minute lecture versus Really asking that really good one question that helps them to define, who am I? What matters most to me? What kind of adult do I really want to become? What kind of people brings out the best in me? Let me look at my circle, right? These are these areas that we spoke about. There's 8 areas, and I'll go through them here in a minute. But this is all about building the home from within. When the home is built on the foundation of identity, that's how, as parents, can live a peace-driven life. You can build an impressive life, or you can build a strong life, one that strengthens. Right? The strongest lives are built from the inside out. It's in the things that people can't see. It's in the decisions that people never realized that was made. So I don't measure successful parenting by whether my child makes perfect decisions or whether they end up living a life that's identical to my values and my principles and my standards. I measure it by whether they have the wisdom, the character, and the courage and the confidence to recover from the imperfect decisions that they make. Because we all do sometimes, right? Because one day they won't need us to make decisions for them. They'll need what we've invested in them to be a guidance for them, right? Long after they left our home. That's the goal. Not raising teenagers who simply obey, but raising adults who know how to lead themselves. And this is the area that I find to be the biggest struggle when it comes to managing versus guiding. Because for so long, when we were raised, right, that is the style that most of our parents raised us. And so naturally, that legacy continues. We inherit that culture and we pass that culture down. And so, the reason why I love this intentional designing of your successful life, your child's successful life, your successful life, your family, is that you now have the ability to have like a bird's eye view, and you get to make a powerful choice to say, you know what? I am deciding to shift my identity to a parent who guides versus a parent who leads. Okay? Because there's a big difference. One is hinged on control, and the other is hinged on true connection. And so, if this information is resonating with you in any way, I really want to encourage you. I have a legacy by design, and it's an experience that really is fun to experience, and it starts with you as the parent, as a visionary, but also it integrates your pre-adult or adult child, right? Especially the teenagers getting ready to go to graduate and be delivered into the world. Those are the ones that really could use some clarity and crystallizing their vision and their desires, so that no matter what path, no matter what happens in their life, that they are anchored and grounded in who they are. That is the legacy that you want to pass. I'll say this before I make my invitation, that I knew that I had to do something different when it came to the way in which my kids were growing. For those of you all who are just following me, I have 6 children, my husband and I, 1 adult child and 5 that we raise every day of the week in the house, from 18 all the way down to 3. So, and so when I say I understand the different dynamics of the needs of each child, it is such a special and unique thing to observe, especially when we're talking about children in this generation. There are some nuances that I see that is very different just in how teenagers are thinking and processing. Is so much different than how even my generation did, and in the generations before us. They have access to so much information. My goodness. You remember, for us, we had to go down an aisle and get a card and pull books and get knowledge from books and just ask our parents and take whatever they say for face value. And oftentimes they got the knowledge and the information from what their grandma said based off of the knowledge and the insight that they had, right? And so knowledge was, it just wasn't as readily available as it is now, right? And so we're not raising kids that are just listening to everything that we say as face value. They're cross-checking and cross-referencing with TikTok and chat and their other influences, right? And so we want to be able to leverage that environment by giving them their core, helping them to discover their core in a way that is authentically theirs, will allow them to be able to go into the world and see the world and experience the world from a lens that brings them personal conviction. That is what I found to be the most effective way, is to the quicker we can start giving our children personal conviction. And that comes from identity, right? Before we think about the degree, before we think about all those things that used to be the main focus back in the day, especially for this generation, identity is going to be the main focus, because they are going out into a world on a day-to-day basis where their identity is being challenged and deceived, and they're constantly up in a battle, in a warfare, a war that they don't even realize oftentimes is happening, where their identity is trying to be snatched from them like a thief. And the goal is, especially before they get out your house, it's so much harder when they're out of the house, but especially when they're in the house, just really creating, opportunities to have what I call conversations that matter. And so if you are listening to this and you feel like, man, I don't want to go after this parenting thing alone, especially if you work so hard to build this life and the success for them, you've invested so much. It is so costly when we deliver our children out to the world and their decisions, we're not sure if it's right. And so we want to place them through an assessment and a process where we can make sure that they have that courage, that they're clear on their calling, that they're clear on their convictions, their principles, their standards and values that make up their character. That they are clear on, they're consistent, right? Consistency is a very good trait that we want to look for in different areas of their life, and really get to the root of why it's challenging for them to be consistent. It could be a system that just needs to be in place that's not working for them, right? Most of the time it is a system. And so we like to be able to work inside out, inside the home, because legacy and success is not, about the flashy cars and the houses and the estate and the buying new land, and all that stuff is great and it has its place and it's definitely a part of the estate plan. But we want to create a portfolio. We want to create a blueprint, a family legacy blueprint, where your kids can grow into, and that it's a living document where everything is there for them to be able to live the life that they designed, right? The children of this generation, autonomy is so big for them, so important, that they feel like this is my life, my legacy, what I'm leaving behind, and a shared vision with the family, not an adopted vision, right, or a forced vision. So if this resonates with you, I want to invite you to click the link below this video and go to drminesha.com. Find out your path, your next best step, and will be right there so that we can actually have the conversation that matters. If you haven't checked out the capacity score, you may have an opportunity to do that. If that's still up, it's completely free, so that you can just allow yourself to see what you may not see that you're carrying, right? As a leader of the home, as the parent, because a parent who is trying to steward and equip a child to deliver them into the world from an empty place, it's not going to be the best results, right? We want that mom who's not just surviving, but really thriving in those areas of her life so that she can truly be all that child needs. Model it in everyday life, but also have the clarity of mind, the grace, and the patience that's necessary for such a sensitive transition like this. And so I'm so glad that I passed across when it did. Again, I'm Dr. M, formerly known as Dr. Minesha, and I am super excited to be able to connect with you and help you to design your legacy intentionally. Until the next video, bye-bye for now.